Imagine fighting 7 enemy jets alone, surviving, landing a shredded aircraft, and then being ordered to never speak of it again. 70 years later, the world finally says his name. And Tales from the Corps was in the room when he told the story, in his own words.
Klaus, this is Klaus.
Hello, Klaus.
I'm sorry, we are 2 minutes late. That's not German.
No, it's not. No problem.
I had to set it up first, so I'm going to pass the computer over to Royce.
Great. Thank you so much, Klaus. Great to see you.
And this is Nick Devaux. Nick.
Hello. Right. How are you, Mr. Williams? That's so great to see you. Hi. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so thrilled.
I'm not much of a Zoomer, but I'll try and cooperate with Klaus's guidance here.
Yes, Klaus is. Anyway, it's so wonderful. Thank you so much for making time for us this afternoon. I think you're going to find a very captive audience who are so eager to listen to your story, your remarkable story. I have the little introduction, so I will do that as a precursor, and then we will invite you to share your story with us and whatever you want to share. And then maybe we'll have a few questions for you at the end. I should tell you, we have a few very distinguished gentlemen also in the room today, a couple other World War II veterans. We have Mr. Joe Peterburs, himself a very distinguished pilot of World War II.
Joe Peterburs.
Oh, we know Joe?
You know Joe Peterburs?
I don't think so.
Joe is a 36-year veteran. And we also have Mr. Les Schrenk, who was a ball turret gunner who was shot down and was a prisoner of war for 15 months. But we're all just absolutely thrilled again to be with you today, myself, my partner, Lars. So if you'll allow me, then I will just read quickly.
Can you bring me up to speed a little bit? The purpose of this is an organization.
So a couple of years ago, Klaus very kindly presented to you my father's logbook.
Yes, I'm with you.
Right, at the Old Bowl Pilots. And you signed it. And the book is still making it. We have more than 250 signatures in that book now. We're still collecting stories like yourself. The two other veterans with us today are also signatories in the logbook, so we're in very good company. And we just thought your story is so amazing that we thought it would be great for you to share it firsthand. There we go. There you are on the day that you signed the logbook.
That's me.
That's you. And Klaus, of course, was instrumental in making that happen for us. And your story is just it's so remarkable. It's so unusual that we begged Klaus to drag you along and have you tell your story to us, because we just thought it would be amazing to hear it from you firsthand. And so for the benefit of the room, I'm just going to read quickly the introduction that Klaus shared with us. You were born on 4th of April, 1925 in South Dakota. You joined the U.S. Navy in 1941 following the attack on Pearl Harbor and became a naval aviator. You served in the Korean and Vietnam Wars. And during the Korean War, you encountered 7 MiGs. There was a combat that ensued, during which time you shot down 4 of them. And that combat lasted 35 minutes. And so today, I think you're also awaiting the award of the Medal of Honor. And I'm just going to stop talking now so that you can share with us the story of your life and what you would like to share with us.
Let me correct the record. I joined in probably February of 1942, and I joined the Army. And I was with them 1942 and 1943. In late 1943, I was 17 and eligible for Naval Aviation Cadet Program. I switched to join the Navy, and then I served with them till 1980. So I had 37 years in. And during that, I spent 2 years with the Air Force.
Well, thank you for that correction. So Klaus, you got to get that fixed.
He's smiling.
As long as I have a 100-year-old assistant, I don't worry about it.
Very good.
Excellent.
So back to you.
Yeah. You would like me to refresh the story
Yes,
of
please.
the encounter?
Yes,
Whoa.
please.
Okay. Well, it was a very stormy day off the coast of North Korea. And I had already had a mission in the morning hitting targets at Hworyong, a manufacturing warehousing city on the Yalu. Right across the Yalu was the Soviet Union. And once this started, they reflected interest with a whole lot of chatter and launching lots of airplanes. Once I got back to the ship, I was told that I was on a combat air patrol next to get some lunch and would be a briefing and on our way. We were a flight of 4 Panthers, F9F 5s. We were catapulted, joined up under the clouds at 500 feet, in the clear at 12,000 feet. And on the way up there, our Combat Information Center notified us that there were inbound bogies, unknown aircraft. Once we got in the clear, I could see contrails toward us coming from the north, and there were 7 of them. As it passed over me, I identified them as MiGs. And they said, that's your target. Well, in the meantime, the flight leader had a warning light for fuel system, and the controller on the ground ordered him and his wingman to return and orbit over the ship, stay out of whatever, just stay there. I had a wingman and immediately tried to pursue them. As they came over the top of me, they reversed and headed north. They got well to the north of us, probably 40 miles. And as they dropped out of the contrails, I lost contact. I didn't see anything anymore, and replied to combat that thus was so. And they had lost them also as they dove into 2 different groups and dropped out of the contrails. So they were a smaller group, and I had no contact. At that time, I'd been pursuing them and had checked my weapon systems, and everything was go. Fired test rounds, and it was at 26,000 feet. And at that time, with no contact, they ordered me back to establish a barricade between the last sighting and the task force. Well, when I was not yet completed that operation, I was attacked by 4 MiGs coming in at my level from my 10 o'clock position, off to the left and forward, all shooting. And I reacted by a hard turn, and as they went by me, I dropped in on their number 4 trailing airplane in a short burst, and it put out smoke and dropped out of the formation. And my wingman at that point left me and followed the trail airplane, and he was out of the combat. He never fired a shot. And I reported that I'd hit an airplane, and they said, "Do not engage." And I said, "We are engaged." There was no opportunity to turn tail and try and escape. I'd been a dead duck. They were a greater performance airplane, could outspeed, outclimb, and everything. And could probably equal my turns. I beat them in turning, which saved my life, but that was because I was at a lower speed, and at a greater speed make them swing wider and unable to track. So, following that, the remaining three climbed abruptly above me, and I tried to turn and follow, dropping well behind them. And meanwhile, the other three are coming in from the other side. So I was planning, if engaged, it would be the remaining plane that lost its wingman. But I saw the other two turn and come head on at me. And I reversed and tracked the lead, fired a short burst, and he quit firing and dared to turn away. And I looked over, and his wingman was now probably tracking me. And I switched and got a solution on him and fired, and he quit firing. And the airplane didn't maneuver; it just kept going and passed right under me. He was likely dead. And the engagement lasted 35 minutes, and they were now, instead of being in formation, flying individually, taking their turn, firing at my 6 o'clock tail position. And for the rest of the fight, my primary outlook purpose was surviving and countering the attacks. But during that time, I had some opportunities, and one failed to climb abruptly, which they had the power to do. He passed right in front of me, and I fired, and pieces of his airplane came off, and I had to maneuver hard to avoid hitting him. Well, went on and on like this, and I had shots, and not at any time did I take time out to follow and see the result of that. I'm back to preserving myself and the guy that's shooting at me next. After right at the end of this 35 minutes, I had on the tail of one of them, and he was smoking and dropped speed. Altitude was going down. I was going to give an extra burst, which was wrong. I spent too much time straight and level, and a guy came in right behind me. I did a hard turn. Well, meanwhile, when I gave that second burst, it would pop up, and I was out of ammunition. And in that turn, he hit me with a 37 millimeter right in the butt of my right wing, and it exploded in the accessory section of the aircraft. And not completely disabling, but I lost rudder, just the cable was severed, and I had ailerons, which were hydraulic operated, and I lost all my hydraulics. So I had an elevator as my primary working control. Luckily, I was on my way, pointed at the direction of the task force and the clouds. That was part of a weather system moving through. So I headed toward that, and he stayed right behind me at maybe 300 feet, ideal, and just pumped away. And I would push the stick hard forward and hard back, making zooms, and I'd see the bullets go over me, then under me and over me. And I got into the clouds, and I lost sight of him. He probably lost sight of me. And after calming down a little bit, I was considering my situation and thinking I probably ought to eject, but I was too far from any help. And in this winter climate, the ocean would be very cold and I wouldn't survive long. So I just stuck with it, taking my chances. But I had to get closer in order to be rescued by any means. So I got under the clouds, lowering down, knowing that the bottom of the clouds were 500 feet. So I'm entering the task force area, and they're all at combat ready. And the ring of destroyers were guns free, and unless a target was identified, they were free to fire. And as I came in range, they hadn't been told I was friendly, and they shot at me. Well, my commanding officer had just launched and was below the clouds, sees what's happening, and he calls them off, so no longer being shot at. So I'm maybe 10 minutes away from being able to land because the carrier was loaded with aircraft with the planes pulled back in my landing area, and they had to be moved up forward of the barricade that comes up and keeps you from plowing into the aircraft ahead of you on the flight deck. During that time, I used it to test my capability, and as I slowed down, I would stall at 170 knots, about 200 miles an hour, which was much faster than I normally land. I was transferred over to the landing signal officer on the radio and notified him of this, and they pass it to the captain. And he says, with 30 some knots of wind plus ability to do 30 knots, bring him in any speed he wants. So when they finished their maneuver, the deck rearrangement, they gave me a Charlie, meaning I'm clear to land. So I was in position to, when they were in the wind, I was behind them and could line up to land, except I was offset and had about 15 degrees off from the landing path, which means if I got onto the deck at all, I would probably go right over the side. Miracle on miracle. The captain of the ship saw this. I told him I couldn't line up. They said, we'll cut you for an early wire. Well, that didn't mean a hill of beans. As I came in, and the captain turned the carrier, lined it up with me, and on the first and only pass I would be able to make, I caught number 3 wire for a normal landing. That's pretty much the operation. Resulting debriefing and so forth was hilarious and a bunch of lies, and got the Navy to spread the story that was not as meaningful, but it was not true. And I couldn't straighten them out. I was ordered so that when we went to Yokosuka, I was to immediately report to Admiral Briscoe, the senior admiral in the West Pacific in our Navy. And when I came in, I was issued into his office. They closed the door and he said, "Now, what I'm about to tell you, you'll never be able to tell anybody, ever." So having had that instruction, I just stayed away from any discussion. If they were starting to talk about it, I walked away. I knew if I got involved at all, I'd probably be saying something not permitted. And when he first started, he says, "Now what I'm about to tell you, you can't tell anybody. We newly have a capability, a service in our military called NSA. And their first operation ever, they had a team aboard our cruiser right off the coast of Vladivostok. And with their capabilities of radar and Russian speaking and so forth, they saw what was going on, and they called the admiral reporting this and saying, we want that young man to know that he got at least 3. So what I know, or what I think I know, I learned from the Russians. When they broke up with the Soviet Union, they had a piece in the Moscow paper listing 4 that were killed that day. Well, in 1989 or something like that, a history book came out addressing the war along the Yalu involving MiGs versus Americans, Air Force and the F-86s, and rarely with this one event with me. And in there, they cover the, sorry,
No, go ahead.
I don't need to grab it.
I just bring
They have the story that only one returned out of the 7. I have his name and the airport at Vladivostok where he landed. And I don't have names or anything for the other 2, but some historians, I suppose our own Air Museum in San Diego have made an assumption that I shot down 6. So I'm not a proclaimed ace, except in an organization called ACE something. And I've met with the director of it, and that's the way they tell the story. So I'm in between, and for sure people certify 4, and the other 2 more or less unaccounted for. But everybody else that gets credit for shooting people down don't know their names either. So whatever. Over.
Oh, my head is spinning.
So is mine.
Yeah, well, I guess the main thing from all of this is that you made it back and can talk to us today.
Yes, I was very fortunate. I give credit to my Lord. As a matter of fact, there is no reasonable belief or reason to think I'd survive that encounter at all. I had a lesser airplane, and these were not cadets. The leader of the flight was an ace from World War II.
Wow. Well, I'm sure you have one or several or Rosie or the Riveters to thank for building that airplane as well.
Absolutely, it's a tough airplane.
It must have been. Wow. Yeah, it's I've read somewhere that I can't remember how many, but that plane was not in a good shape when you brought it home. Not thanks to the landing, but even before you landed. It had a lot of holes in it.
Yeah, 263 holes. Plane captain went out with a grease pencil and encircled it real, but many of those holes were the structure of the airplane was out. They were from the explosion within, not shots from the outside.
Right.
And the story, as I was getting ready to go and see Admiral Briscoe, I ran across a second-class petty officer, Air Bosun, the people that handle the aircraft on the carrier. And I told him who I was and I'd like to take a last minute look at the airplane. And he says, "I'm sorry, sir, we pushed it over the side." And I believed that for the longest time. And Admiral Don Shelton, who studied this thing for 10 years in depth, followed the bureau number of the airplane, and he says it was restored and ended up in the training command.
Really?
As a training airplane. So I don't know. Klaus says,
hold it.
I don't know how this shows up, but this is a big model of the Panther. I've got smaller models, but he's taking pictures. Well, that'll come out. Okay, you can have that thing back. That's a flying model. If I got a battery for it, we could launch it.
Huh.
Oh, there you go. There you go. So that's yeah. And I mean this is all so correct. This is all there's no missiles or anything involved. This is all
No,
guns.
that's 20 millimeter.
Yeah.
And there's 22 23 millimeters and 137.
Wow.
I see you were a ship runner, an AD.
Uh
Yeah,
well, it's a cap. It's
yeah.
AO-59. It's the
Oh,
Mississinawa. It
Euler.
was given to me by Mike Mayer, who's a good friend of the I'm surprised you noticed. You are very observant.
Well, I spent a lot of time at sea, and of course, the uh, task force requires logistics support, and I've seen a lot of AOs come alongside. I had command of a ship myself, and so I know about oilers.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, Mike Mayer, who gave this to me, his father served on the USS Mississinawa, Mr. John
Okay.
Mayer. And
Yeah.
Mississinawa went down on November 44 in New Liffey, thanks
Mhm.
to, well, a Japanese kiting torpedo, but that's another story.
So,
Yeah, a bad one.
yes, Mr. Williams, I must ask you. First of all, thank you for sharing that story. It is such.
Sure.
It is. It's really hard to wrap. I'm sitting here listening to you, trying to wrap my head around all the things that you're sharing with us. I know that there's a very distinguished room here who are going to definitely want to ask some questions. And I'm the least of the apostles here in terms of understanding flight and all the complexities that you were describing. But at the point where they then say to you, look, you cannot speak about this. Well, first of all, so you actually land and you're sitting in the cockpit. How, are you just a ball of mush at that point? I mean, were you not just shaking beyond control? Like, do you even recall those moments of realizing that you had landed and you were still alive?
I don't know how to give credit, but I just went into attack mode, doing what I was trained, never really nervous or um, what I would expect to happen to be pretty much wrapped up in it, but I was not. And so I went about it and went through the debrief and whatnot. End of the thing. There was a movie in the mess that evening, and I attended for a while. And I'm sitting there watching, and all of a sudden, it sort of hit me uh, what I had just gone through, and so I got up and walked around to calm down a little. I was required that I report to the captain of the ship up on the bridge, which I did. And he more or less congratulated me and said, "This ought to be at least a Navy Cross."
At least. And do you ever have flashbacks or dreams about it? Does anything sort of trigger you, take you back to those moments?
Occasionally, I think about it. For the longest time, when I couldn't talk about it, I put it out of my mind. Really, I said,
Right.
"Gee, it's dead end. Don't expect anything to come of this." In about 1992, when the Soviet Union broke up and released the first report, uh, I guess those following this and have the responsibility decided to declassify it. And I was at a reunion of the Tailhook party, and an admiral that I'd served with when he was wing commander back in the 40s. I was his wingman. And then I served with him 3 other times in Washington and in the Vietnam War. Well, another thing in that introduction, it says I was in the Korean War and World War and Vietnam. I was also, of course, going in 42. The war was there until 45, and I was serving at that time as well.
When did you tell your wife first?
Well, yes, when I was no longer required to keep secret. I said, well, what am I going to do with this? I have no appointments to give a talk. I thought, I owe it to my wife. Why don't I tell her? So I did, and she said, "Oh, Royce," kind of excited her.
After how many years?
50 some.
50-year secret.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
That's yeah.
Did people, so when you went sort of more public with this story, did people even believe you at first? Did you have trouble getting people to believe this story? Do you have any pushback with that?
I don't think so. One of the first things was an admiral that was in the squadron I had after I had been relieved, but he came from that point and had an important job on the East Coast. And he came out and interviewed me and thought it was worthy of going to Pensacola for a special event and be a guest speaker. And darn, I got up on the stage and my hearing aids went out. So it didn't bother me really in giving the story, but they got on down. It was the end of time, and they thanked me for it. And one of the officers sitting in front came up and he said, "Sir, I was one of the officers at the guns on the destroyers when you came back to land, and I'm sorry I shot at you."
Oh, wow. That's a great story. Wow. Well, perhaps we can open up questions to the room if there are
Sure.
any. I'm sure there must be. And maybe I can introduce Mr. Peter Burrs to go first because he, of all the persons in this room, I think can identify with your combat experience the most, having had
Excellent.
several experiences himself. Would you like to say
Sure.
anything, Ms. Joe?
Okay, it's my turn.
It's your
Uh,
turn.
it's really my privilege, number one, to meet you, and it's amazing some of the coincidental things between our careers. Well, we both spent a long time. I was 36 years of active duty, 36 years and 5 months, and initially, in 1942, I was 17 and I tried to get into the Navy Aviation Cadet program, and they wouldn't accept me because of something with my eyes. So I did the next best thing that I thought at the time. The Army Air Corps was taking 18-year-olds who could pass the competitive examination. So I did that, got in, and so I started my Air Force career. So, and it is and your explanation of survival mode. I understand that what happens in those times, you don't think of all the things that are going on. You concentrate on what you're going to do, what your mission is, and some of the main stuff that come back to you is your training. Some of the stuff you do just automatically, and I really appreciate that part because I've felt the same way.
Yeah, it is true. Once I was given the mission to intercept, I saw a target, and then when it happened and they attacked, I was ready. Everything had been tested, and I just jumped on the first target. And for the rest of the 35 minutes of this one combat mission, I never lost it. I was motivated and concentrating on the mission and what I should do next.
So also in the room with us is Les Schrenk. Les was a ball turret gunner. He wasn't up in the cockpit like you guys were, but he certainly saw his fair share of action and getting shot at. And Les, I don't know if you can hear me, but is there any questions that you might want to put to Mr. Williams?
No, I think he presented his story very well, but I can feel for him. I know what he felt like.
Yeah,
Yes.
most of my holes in my airplane were from close air support. I did a lot of that. And so I've been hit by small arms, AA of various sizes, SAM missile, the works. And none of it's good, but survived it. And I was never personally wounded in any way.
I
was
have a
gonna-
question for you, Mr. Williams.
Sure.
Have you ever bailed out or have you ever ejected?
I should have, but I didn't. I was teaching. I taught at the Air Force Fighter Weapons School in Nellis, and I had an Air Force Squadron Command. I went from there to a Fleet Air Gunnery Unit at El Centro, California, the Navy's version of the Fighter Weapons School, where I taught tactics and actually brought it to the Navy. One day, we had three FJ-3 Furies, very close cousins to the F-86s. And we only had 3 available for the flight. So I decided I could run it from the TOW. The TOW aircraft was the Panther, which we've just been talking about. On takeoff, it did flame out, but I just lost power. I got rid of the aerial target I was towing and started kind of dropping down, but I got up to 350 feet. At the end of the runway is a mini Grand Canyon that you don't want to slam into. And so I just put it in the longest coast I could make out to get over that. And the aircraft had limitations. You had to be to 1,200 feet, 120 knots level or climbing in order to survive an ejection. So I never got there, and I stuck with it and hit the ground, and nose came off. The airplane got messed up. And there was a former naval officer on destroyers that was trained during World War II to be behind the aircraft carrier to rescue any pilots that went in the water. So he was trained in rescue, and he came over in his pickup truck, and I couldn't get out of it because the nose was gone and all of the electric and hydraulic were shot to operate the canopy. So I'm locked in. But there's a sign that says rescue, and this guy understood that, followed it to an indent in the fuselage, put his hand in there, grabbed a handle and pulled it, and the chain unlocked the locks on the canopy. He grabbed it and a muscle man. He flung that thing back. It almost hit the tail. Then he reached in and grabbed me and pulled me out. Of course, I was wheels up. So it wasn't much of a jump, but I had to jump off the wing. And he ran with me for probably 200 yards to get away from it all. We became friends.
Yeah, he didn't buy the beer that night.
No. I've had other incidents that were kind of hairy, but I had one where we had lost 16 airplanes worldwide in an F4 Phantom. And I had that problem to me, and had been with the Air Force, and the orders are jump. Well, I was in the Navy then, and they allow you to make up your own mind about some of these things. So my rear seater ejected, but I was taking it back to the land runway and coasting as far as I could, altitude for distance. And then I got down to where I needed power, and I wasn't getting any power. And I got down approaching the runway, and I had gone short probably into a hospital. And so I went into afterburner and 2 engines to make it to land. And so I was the only one to ever have that happen and bring the airplane back. Well, they descended on it with engineers from around the world, and in about 2 months, they solved the problem, never to happen again.
Mm,
I didn't eject.
no. Jumping out of burning aircrafts or airplanes, that's something that both Les and Colonel Peterburs have done. I think your jump, Joe, was pretty short though. You
Yeah,
didn't spend
well,
much time in the canopy.
No.
well, my first bailout was my last mission, the 49th mission. After I strafed the airfield and got hit, I tried to make it back to friendly lines and got about 30 miles, and I was down to 1,000 feet and thought I had to bail out. And then I got hit by an FW 190. He came in, and I was able to turn into him. I was burning from the damage from the airfield. And I turned into him. He fired his rockets and guns, and he just kept going.
Rockets?
Yeah, he had rockets. He
In
had,
World War II?
Yep. Yeah, the FW 190.
But not air-to-air missiles.
No.
Oh,
It was
okay.
yeah.
And what were you
And
flying?
I was flying a Mustang, a P-51.
Yeah.
And anyway, by the time he passed, he just kept going. He saw I was burning, so I, just let me go. And I was down to 500 feet. And then I'm figuring I'm too low to bail out. I'm going to have to belly it in, but I'd already unstrapped. So I was able to hook up. So I went out the side at about 350 feet. And I had to go out the left side because the right side is you go out and your torque will throw you away from the aircraft, and the left side will throw you into the aircraft. Well, as published, when I went out at about 300, when I left the aircraft at 300 feet, I hit my right knee with the horizontal stabilizer and pulled the ripcord, the chute opened and swung once and hit the ground hard. And from there on, it's another story.
You know the Flying Greek?
Pardon?
You know the Flying Greek? Flying P-51s. After flying with the Brits, when America got in the war, he was permitted to join Air Force.
Pisano.
Army Air Force.
Pisano.
Yeah.
Pisano.
Right. And he's the first one to ever be receiving American citizenship overseas. He was taken into London and with a lot of celebrities and so forth, sworn in as an American citizen.
Yeah.
He was later shot down, and he was writing it in and it did not make an effort to parachute. As he hit the ground, he got out of the wing, and the plane was still moving when he got off and was running on the ground. And he ended up hiding in a bunch of trees near there. And eventually, through a whole lot of passing them around, he ended up with their forces that were blowing up bridges and so forth. So he did that for quite a while before getting back to the Americans. Retired as a colonel.
I actually, the ejection seat was the first ones that came out. They were rather crude, and I did that in 54. I ejected from a T-33. I had a fire in the plenum chamber, and there you pull the two handles up, punch the canopy off, and then the other you're setting on a 37 millimeter cannon shell, and that blows you out. And then you're out there tumbling in the seat. So you have to unstrap yourself from the seat and you separate from the seat, but you're still tumbling, and you're tumbling with the aircraft. and you have to
Yeah.
make the decision as when you're going to pull the ripcord. And so you
What
pull the
altitude?
ripcord, and mine went perfectly. I just went, like I said before, training, and it went pretty good.
Yeah, I've trained a lot for it, but didn't use it. I was flying with a wingman out of Dallas on a non-scheduled flight, meaning you have permission to look around and acquire somebody to fight with. So we jumped two other 86s at 44,000 feet, and we were riding their tail. And I called to the wingman. I said, where did they go? And he said, they're right ahead of you. I said, where are you? On your wing. Well, I had been trained enough. I knew my problem, and I pulled the emergency oxygen in my parachute. And I passed out at 44,000 feet and recovered at 18,000 feet. In plenty of time to land the airplane.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Les, how when you exited, your plane was also on fire when you exited your plane, right? And
Yes.
how high was that?
Pardon me?
How high were you? Well, I guess maybe
I don't know. We were at 19,000 feet when our plane was set on fire, but we were 10 minutes away from the nearest land. So the pilot put it on a shallow dive. And I really don't know what altitude I was when I bailed out. It wasn't very high.
Yeah. Well, it's certainly must have been. I cannot imagine the panic and then trying to get out of a B-17 on fire because it's not like you're just getting out of the cockpit. You're trying to get through everything, the fuselage. You get out of your bull turret and then get out of a door.
Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
I've got lots of friends that have different stories. One of them, guy I knew, is a brand new pilot on a carrier that had just come out of the shipyard, brand new, and I was part of the crew on there in 1958, and he was flying as an instructor in an F8 Crusader with a flight of 4 in Texas, low altitude, and he was just kind of behind them when a big bird hit it, and it came through, broke the canopy, and I don't know about its flyability, but I don't think so. So he ejected very low altitude, and he was bent over at the time, and it made a permanent grip in his back, and he doesn't stand up straight anymore. And the rest of the flight went back to Jacksonville, from whence they came, and debriefed everything. So where's T.R. Schwartz, our instructor? They didn't know. He got picked up by a farmer in the truck who drove him to a place that I don't remember how he got from there back to Jacksonville, but I think by surface. But anyway, he got there and they never knew what happened to him till he checked in after some time on the ground. He shot down a MiG in Vietnam flying an A4 attack airplane with an air-to-ground missile, which was the only one-of-a-kind accomplishment.
so I was wondering if we had any questions from any of our regular flesh and blood gentlemen joining us today. Those of you who've not jumped out of burning planes or shot down a couple others. For us mere mortals, maybe we can open it up to the rest of the room. You guys, we're thrilled to have you all here, and I'm sure you all are just as amazed as we are. Scott, I know you always have loads of questions from your school kids. Anything at all anybody wants to ask these gentlemen, now is the time.
I wish I had brought students with me today, Nick. Just on my own, the kids finished school yesterday, so they're all on summer vacation. But Mr.
Right.
Williams, this has been great to listen to. I really thank Nick and Lars for inviting me. I'd love to hear a little bit, Mr. Williams, about your World War II service, if you don't mind. Maybe a little bit of an overview of some of your memories from that war.
From World War II?
Yes.
Well, I started in the Army as a rifleman. And then when I was able to get into the Navy, I'd already gone through the Army basic training, but then went into boot camp starting from scratch. And my advanced training made me kind of the company commander in boot camp. And actually, over the years, that favored me in a lot of ways. I was always regimental or something, giving me slight opportunity to not be on KP and that sort of thing. And then I went to a series of schools. And the first flying, I was in a Boeing N3N flying out of a field in Arkansas. And back in the pre-flight and then flight preparatory and flew N3Ns and then SNVs and SNJs and SBDs. So SBD was the first operational plane I flew. And right after that, I flew F6F Hellcats, and I carrier qualified on the USS Ranger CV-4, first year ship built from the keel up as an aircraft carrier. And John S. McCain Sr. was the captain.
Wow.
My McCain story is that following that, I worked for his dad, and in between there, on a round the world cruise, I had a command of a Crusader squadron, F8s. And there was in an A1 squadron, and there was McCain the third, the senator, was a junior officer in there. So, and then when he was shot down, I was the head of the Navy Department of Prisoner of War Matters. So I kind of followed him with that and reported to Admiral McCain what I knew about him, and met with his wife Carol, as I did with families throughout America. So, so that, a lot of covers a lot of it in World War II. I went through training and training and training, and time moved on. So I had just gotten my wings when the war was over and never deployed. In our training, we were told to keep a heads up because submarines were operating in the area where we were overflying, but I never saw an enemy, a German sub. So I was basically out of it until the Korean War. And that's pretty well known. In the Vietnam War, I had numerous assignments. And I started off as the wing commander on the Kitty Hawk, flying F4s and A4s. I had flown the A6 too, but I didn't fly it in combat. And then I went from there to executive assistant to DCNO for air, and that gave me a bit of a handle on their management of things using my experience. Then you may know of Stockdale, who was the senior prisoner of war. Well, his wife became very important. She was a sharp lady, and she would come to DC and work with intelligence. She had already been given special information before he deployed, something I never knew about at the time. but I was there in the prisoner of war business, and she'd come and I'd work somewhat with her. Besides that, I even went with an assistant to, the State Department, who had the same job that I did, only he was an ambassador to Moscow during World War II. And it starts with an H. And we went throughout the United States, sort of briefing families, including the Pueblo families. I also had that as part of my responsibility. But I went on to a lot of other things. Oh, an important thing that I did for the Navy, because of the injuries I had problems. I had 11 broken vertebrae, for one thing. And for mobility and pain care, I was given certain medications that were not allowed for aviators. But in my case, they made an exception. Well, in my second tour as CAG, I was sent because of my senior flight surgeon talking to the flight surgeon at Pensacola, who had some responsibility beyond just being following a squadron or something. And they demanded that I go back and be studied. And through finalizing, they said, there's nothing wrong with it. Just stop taking those medications. You'll be all right. Well, I wasn't all right. I was flying day and night off the carrier and losing my hair and feeling tired all the time. And I got orders that BuMed had studied their decision and said, he can't be flying. They got a hold of BuPerse and they wrote orders, you're authorized for command at sea and naval aircraft in combat, not at the actual controls. So I didn't know how I was going to run an air wing in combat, not flying. So I ordered myself to the Naval Flight Officer training and got the second set of wings and went about my duty back in combat. Well, when I got back from the next assignment, my boss was the head of aviation and with other senior Navy Marine pilots made policy. And my job made me the secretary of the board. And we held forth in San Diego. And item one, NFOs, what are we going to do about them? Because they were not authorized command. I was breaking the law. I didn't know it. And but this would probably limit their service to lieutenant commander if they can't compete for command. I mean, that's about it in aviation. So, example A, Captain Williams, and I'm wearing both sets of wings, and I knew some of these guys, and they quizzed me, why on earth are they prohibited from having command? I said, for the life of me, I have no idea. In some ways, it was a compliment, and it gave me, I think, a better handle on my job. Over.
So just a question, and this one goes, I guess, both for you and Joe, is you obviously both made a transition from a propeller aircraft to the jet age in your careers. Did you, how did you feel there? I mean, how was that?
Piece of cake, no torque. I don't know, smoother, quieter, faster. I liked it.
Funnier?
Funnier, like having fun,
Yeah.
or funny, like being funny.
No, both.
No, fun, a blast, nice to
Yeah, it was
fly.
kind of funny, and it was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, training and that sort of thing. I dearly love flying, and I had gone from my favorite airplane, the F9F Bearcat, which is number one because power. It you could loop on takeoff. So I was leaving that for sort of a lesser underpowered airplane, but it was smooth and fun if you're not getting shot at.
That helps.
Yeah.
Wow. Any other questions from anyone in the room, gentlemen? Mike or Neil?
I'd like to first and foremost, thank you guys for being here today to share your stories with us. I was in the United States Marine Corps Infantry, Afghanistan, Iraq from 03 to 07. And, you guys, I say a lot on our podcast and I mean it. We stand on the shoulders of giants, and you guys are the giants that came before us who, not only inspired us and fought for the freedom of the world, but we're allowed to do what we were allowed to do to serve and live in this great country because of men like you who came before us. So, definitely want to throw that out first. Nick asked if your story, people had trouble believing the story. And what I always find amazing is when you hear an unbelievable story like that, and whenever, if you remember how Mr. Williams finished telling the story, after all of this unbelievable information, dog fights and barely making it back and thinking about putting it down, and then you're getting friendly fire, and then he just finishes with, and that was that operation. And you can always tell who the real ones are because it's just what they did and the way that they share the stories. And it's just what you did. My question is going to be, in infantry ground combat, training really kicks in, but we can train for, fire and maneuver and all the different things that we do. How much did training kick in, or how much can you actually even did you train, or could you train for the event that you went through, a dogfight with multiple aircraft?
First, you have Foss family, and are you a part of any way linked to the Foss family of South Dakota? You
No,
look
sir.
like they're
I'm not.
relatives. I've got 3 sons, and they all look like you.
Oh, really? I hope that's a good thing.
Yeah, training, of course. An awfully lot of it came out after Korea. Prior to that, combat training was mainly aerial gunnery.
Right.
And that was all pro forma, not really countering one another. And I did that on my own. Or I had a wingman and we'd go out and practice, but it was not really taught. Matter of fact, you didn't train for war. They were afraid of the losses, and they prohibited certain maneuvers. Well, after that, and then the Air Force combined, and my training and instructing in the Fighter Weapons School brought tactics to the Navy. And from that time on, we now have Top Gun, and the leader of Top Gun was a student of mine, and he gives me credit for his background. And now we actually train in peace to preserve in war.
Right. And that's why I didn't know how much way back then you actually trained for dogfights and combat, because like you said, it was mainly aerial support and things of that nature.
Now, my training for this fight was unrealistic. Nothing really in the involvement that I faced, except in my imagination and some of my flight on my own was to try and train myself.
Now,
And
after
following
when
that, we through that experience and outcome, we now actually in depth serious training for combat.
when you
And much of it
returned,
now is all combat air-to-air missiles. and that is a different cat from guns.
Right. Was there any debrief when you came back where I know you talked about it briefly? You mainly said you're told not to talk about it. Where you debriefed on what you did? Do you know if any element of your dogfight was then used for training for future?
Yes, in that following that, I went with the Air Force and I trained with them. I ended up commanding an Air Force squadron, and I came back and brought my experience, personal and what Air Force was doing in the fighter weapons school. I don't know if you know uh, Boots Blissey. He's the writer of No Guts, No Glory. I think he had 19 kills. So I flew and fought and stuff with him, and part of my learning techniques and whatnot was those experiences, and I brought it to the Navy.
Outstanding, outstanding. Well, thank you all so much again, and then of course thanks to Nick and Lars for inviting us along to be a part of this awesome event. Thank you guys.
Good
No
to have you,
problem.
Mike. Anyone else? Anyone else with a burning question? I don't want to keep these gentlemen too much longer. We've had the privilege of Mr. Williams and Joe and Les for the last 60 odd minutes. And we should probably start to look to wrap things up fairly soon. So now or never, gentlemen. Mike Mayer, good to see you in the room. Sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank Joe Peterburs that he came down to the Old World Pilots and met with Walter Schuck and Kurt Schultz. I was very good friends with Kurt and Walter, and I really enjoyed that meeting, what we had that morning. Thank you, Joe.
That was great. The relationship between Walter and I from 05 until he passed in 15 was just tremendous. We were best friends, and
Yes.
he was part of our family. I'm Papa Joe to my great grandkids and stuff, and he was Papa Walter.
Wonderful. It's really, it is fantastic. And for me, it's always a good reminder that we don't need any wars.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Klaus. And just let everybody know, Klaus, when I met Klaus, I asked him if he would, take the book to get, I think it was Mr. Schultz's signature was the one that we were trying to get to. And then through Klaus, he said, well, I'm part of this Old Bull Pilots, and there's all these gentlemen, and they meet. And in one day, Klaus took that book, I think it was 300 miles, Klaus, and you got 4 signatures.
That's nothing on the motorcycle.
BMW.
There you go. He has a few of them, but you did it. You did it, and you took your time, and you spent your day, and you met with these remarkable gentlemen. In fact, I think Mr. Williams is the only one still alive now.
Yeah, that's the amazing. And Joe Peterburs, of course, both are 100 years old.
Yep. There's quite a bit of a flying experience in this room. So there you go.
So sometimes,
here we go.
Sometimes I say things that I'm not really knowledgeable about, but I just noticed 2 people called me and said, take a look on what we sent you on the iPhone. And I've only looked a little bit. It says something about a special honor, Hall of Fame. And then it went into a production of a movie I was in. And I don't know what's behind it, but it was placed on internet by the Aerospace Museum in San Diego. So I haven't read it myself yet, but it could be interesting.
Well, great. Thanks for telling us about it, and we'll be sure to look for that. And we all look forward to you receiving that. It's the Medal of Honor, is it? Is that the one that's hopefully in the pipeline for you? So we will.
Is there a time frame on that?
Yeah,
well, it should happen this year.
The president says bring it on, so that's a pretty good clue.
Yeah,
Well, good.
Outstanding.
Yeah, we definitely all look forward to that.
Well earned. Well earned.
Yeah, much so. Wow.
Hey, bless you guys. This has been kind of fun.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad that you found it worth your while. I know we certainly have been absolutely riveted here. It really is a blessing and an honor to meet
Well,
you
a
and hear your
blessing and honor goes to Klaus because I don't know how to operate this thing. It took us a little fooling around to even turn it on.
Well, that's all right.
Well,
We are here. Mission accomplished.
Mission
So,
accomplished.
Yep. All right. Well, gentlemen, unless there's anything burning that anybody has to offer or add, I'm just going to say thank you again to everyone for coming. Yes, Neil, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, I'd feel like crap if I didn't just say thank you guys for having me come on. You know, the Zoom has been amazing, and like you said earlier, Nick, listen to the stories. Just try to wrap your head around it. I can't begin to imagine. You know, I'm no pilot. I was like Mike. I was on the ground. You know, mud marine, and I know Mr. Williams. You know, Peter, but we love you guys up there. You know, got nothing but great things to say about all you guys up there above us while we're down there in the mud. You know, I just wanted to say thank you guys, and thank you guys for coming before us and being the legends that you are. You know, you saved the world.
well, I don't know. One of my credits is I think I'm one of the few that have been hit all the way from small arms to SAM missiles. It ain't
Yes.
fun, but always got the airplane back, and none of it hit my flesh.
Hey, Les.
I finally found the right button.
How you doing, Les?
Hello, hello.
So this
Have a lot
is the
problem.
picture. Let me just get this. So I'm just gonna remove you, Nick. So 3 legends in one picture. I hope you can see it. Wow, you can stay in it, Klaus.
Oh, that's good. Don't run off.
Yeah. Well, thank you all, gentlemen.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Good to
Thank
see
you.
you, Les. All right, gents.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
Thank
God
you
bless.
and bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.